IVM.
RMZ Corp presents The Future of Space.
In our very first episode, our host, Mr. A.N. Venugopal, gave you a glimpse into the broader connotations of the term sustainability. Sustainability was explored through the lens of environment, social, and governance. It has become an important part of everyday living, as well as the way in which businesses are conducted. In this episode of the Future of Space podcast, we will take a closer look at the concept of sustainable architectural design and how it can be incorporated into the larger scheme of the workspace. I'm your host, Isha Anand, and let me extend a warm welcome to you, our listeners, to the Future of Space podcast. If I were to ask you to visualize your workspace, what are some of the aspects that come to your mind? You might be thinking of a certain type of building with construction, ambience, lighting, and seating arrangements radically different from the home environment. There may be a few potted plants here and there, vertical gardens, sprawling spaces, and communal spots also thrown into the mix. If anything, workspace architecture differentiates the space from that of the home or any other type of space imaginable. Workspace absorption in the Indian commercial real estate industry is growing at a rapid pace. With a current stock of 600 million square feet and a net absorption of 45 million square feet per year, it puts a great onus on architects and developers to design buildings that have a positive impact on occupants as well as the environment. There's also a need to package the ideal member experience in the framework of net zero or regenerative architecture. The Paris Agreement of 2016 was a revolutionary step in exhorting the nations of the world to keep an upper limit on the global rise in temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Given the current status quo, global temperatures would increase by 3 to 4 degrees Celsius by 2030. Building construction and operations contribute significantly to global warming, and the time has come for the commercial real estate industry to respond to environmental challenges through architecture that is optimized, efficient, has clean technology, and carbon-neutral solutions. India currently stands as the world's second largest market for green buildings, an achievement that has the potential to receive increased support on the policy front. With regard to the consolidation of national sustainability policies, experts highlight the need to customize the areas of policy application and the intended outcomes to the uniqueness of the Indian landscape. With that and the environmental learnings from historical and architectural references that India has to offer, I have no doubt that India could potentially be the leader on this path to sustainable design.
Knowledge Corner is presented by RMZ Corp.
The Harvard Business Review documents a Rocky Mountain Institute observation on the importance of including sustainability in the planning and design stages. This, in comparison to the mere placement of green elements within the workspace, promoted a 40% increase in organizational savings and performance respectively. Today, I have with me Dr. Milena Stojkovic, Associate Partner at Foster & Partners. As an architect and environmental designer, she has worked for clients including Apple, Hankook, Cleveland Clinic, and Penn University Hospital. She's also worked on Foster & Partners projects in India, and most recently has been the lead environmental designer on a new international airport in Southeast Asia. Milena is a tutor at UCL Bartlett's Environmental Design and Engineering MSc program. Hi, Milena, and welcome to the Future of Space podcast.
Thank you for having me.
At the very outset, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on carbon-neutral commercial assets.
As you mentioned, climate change is one of the biggest, if not the biggest challenge of our time. We need to keep the temperature increase within 1.5 degrees, and anything above that would trigger irrevocable changes to life on Earth. So if we continue with business as usual, the temperatures are likely to increase to over 4 degrees. So it's clear that we all need to do our part and be responsible for our emissions. And commercial buildings are not an exception. With leaders in the field adopting the net zero carbon targets helps the whole sector move forward. Just to explain the concept, net zero carbon target is supposed to be met through a reduction in operational energy. This can be achieved through efficient envelope, efficient HVAC systems, LED lighting, efficient equipment and appliances, and responsible running of the building, including educating occupants of energy preservation practices. The next step would be the introduction of renewable energy, ideally on-site and where not possible off-site. And then only as a last step, we would introduce offsets through recognized offsetting frameworks. In 2019, Foster & Partners was the first architectural practice to sign up to the Net Zero Carbon Buildings Commitment by World Green Building Council. By 2030, all buildings used by the practice will be carbon neutral. Many developers and commercial landlords have also signed this commitment, including Lendlease and Berkeley Group.
That was a pretty detailed picture, Milena. Thank you so much for that. Sustainability is really important, and some of the key aspects are energy and resource management, carbon neutrality, and the impact on overall building health and users. Why do you think these are important?
I think it's important because previous practices have caused a lot of damage. Starting from the bigger picture, we need to preserve our planet's resources and improve the quality of life for our and future generations. This includes reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, switching from fossil fuels to renewable energy, cleaning the air, cleaning rivers, oceans, reducing and repurposing existing waste, creating carbon sinks, and to mining and extraction from the earth, and so on. And the construction and real estate sector can impact a lot of these through responsible design, construction, and operational practices. We do have the knowledge and technology to create buildings that not only minimize the negative impact, but also have a positive impact on people and the planet. In addition, green buildings make business sense. They are cheaper to run. Building owners are seeing 10% or greater increase in their asset value. And also what we see is tenants are willing to pay more for a sustainable or LEED certified building.
Adding on to that, smart building technologies have now become integral to building design. How do you think that would contribute to sustainable buildings?
I think smart technologies can help us get where we want to be in terms of health and well-being and sustainability and human comfort much faster. So sub-metering energy and water data, targeted use of sensors, the creation of digital twins can help us quickly understand potential operational issues and resolve them, as well as anticipate events before they become issues. An important aspect of today's construction process is also post-occupancy evaluation, ensuring that buildings perform how they're designed, making the most out of technologies and systems that are already installed. And digital twins and real-life data allow us to ensure that we are running our buildings efficiently and through optimization can improve year after year. Also, new technologies can help us work more efficiently. For example, a dog-like robot, Spot, from Boston Dynamics is being used on some of our construction sites to capture changes on regular basis, comparing the design models and the built reality.
Sustainability policy making is still at a nascent stage, and carbon pricing is a much talked about subject in the whole process. So how do you think carbon pricing would be effective towards achieving carbon neutrality?
Climate change is considered a market failure by economists because it imposes huge costs and risks on future generations who will suffer the consequences of climate change without these costs and risks being reflected in current market prices. So a price on carbon can help shift the burden of damage back to those who are responsible for it and who can reduce it. It gives an economic signal to polluters who can decide whether to discontinue their polluting activity, reduce emissions, or continue polluting and pay for it. It also stimulates clean technology and market innovation, encouraging new low-carbon drivers of economic growth. However, the problem is that the current cost of carbon is too low to drive significant change. And I guess we can see similar processes on a building level, especially when looking at whole life carbon of a building. If we want to choose materials that have low embodied carbon, that is likely to cost much more than buying offsets. At this moment, the price of offsets is just too low to drive significant behavioral changes, which is why we need clear and ambitious policies. These are all relatively new tools, but I feel that they do have a lot of potential if used properly and when the prices reflect reality.
I agree with you, Milena, and there has to be a fine balance between carbon pricing and adopting the best practices towards sustainability. That being said, when it comes to sustainability implementation and monitoring, what are some of the global paradigms that you see emerge?
The main trend is transparency, publicly reporting the actual not as designed performance. Cities like New York already have online libraries displaying in-use performance of buildings in terms of energy use and water consumption. And in the following period, as part of their Green New Deal, New York City is introducing fines for high CO2 emissions, which for large energy inefficient office towers can be in millions of dollars per year. Also, certifying buildings based on actual, not modeled performance, I think, is expected to be more present in future. LEED version 4 in 2013 introduced mandatory energy and water reporting, but the credits are still assigned on modeled, not actual data. I believe there is a lot that can be learned from systems like Australia's Neighbours, which is the National Australian Building Environment Rating System, which started as voluntary in 1998 and became legally required in 2010 for all larger offices. And 20 years on, it's clear that we can design for performance, not compliance, with 90% of buildings targeting very high performance of 4.5 or 5 stars under Neighbours, and 90% of them achieving their commitment. This has completely transformed their office market, and 80% of the overall office tenancies are now certified. The data is publicly available, and potential tenants can compare offices in terms of running costs and indoor environment. This pushed everyone to improve their performance, and the average rating for the whole stock of Australian office buildings jumped from 2.7 in 2006 to 4.3 in 2018. Another major shift is achieving the whole life net zero carbon commitments. In order to reduce the temperature to 1.5 degrees, we need to go above and beyond the current best practice, which are standards like LEED or BREEAM.
With respect to occupant health, what do you see some of the positive developments being adopted at the design stage?
Let me give you some context around that. Generally, the development of research in the field of health and well-being related to buildings has shown how good acoustic, thermal, and visual environment, providing views out, introduction of nature and natural patterns or biophilia, healthy materials, good air quality, and so on, can have a positive impact on health and well-being, on mood, on productivity, and satisfaction with our working environment. This, translated into HR terms, means staff retention, reduced sick leave, and so on. In terms of real estate, in real estate terms, there's an increase in rents, higher occupancy rates. This explains the success of well-building standards around the world. We now have tools to measure and display the performance of indoor environment, and as an increasing number of people are using smart wearable technology to monitor their health, it is logical that more of them, especially millennials, are asking for this in their offices and also their homes. In answer to your question, the COVID pandemic has also taught us how buildings can impact occupants' health and highlighted the important role of building services engineers, as well as generally holistic multidisciplinary approach to design. COVID has taught us the importance of natural ventilation in buildings, designing for flexibility, changing how our offices and homes look. It asked us to question our basis of design for HVAC systems and occupancy density. And finally, it has pushed the introduction of smart features and sensors, with more and more companies, as the people are going back to the office, introducing technology and developing apps for meeting room bookings, toilet availability checking, lift waiting times, and so on. So COVID has also pushed the implementation of technology in the built environment.
Thank you so much, Milena, for being with us here today. Sustainable architecture is a really fascinating domain, and mastering it is the need of the hour. We are truly happy to have taken on this journey with you.
Thank you, Isha. Thank you.
The paradigms of sustainability continue to evolve over time, and so will the need to be innovative in our approach towards achieving the 3 goals of sustainability: energy and resource management, carbon neutrality, building and occupant health. With support and creative solutions from all stakeholders, sustainability in the Indian and global commercial real estate scenario is achievable. Tune into the Future of Space podcast, where the conversation continues.